Hi ladies and gentlemen, it's March 17th, 2017, and I thought I'd better get back to some military things because obviously there's a lot going on. When I first started to explain and to talk about all the things that I have, both temporally and spiritually, I said that we were in a war in both realms. Not only for control and power over the material world, but control and power over our consciousnesses, our spiritual side. And many, many years ago, back in the Middle Ages, there was an agreement between the church and the state, between the church and science really, that the church would remain in the realm of the spirit, the consciousness, and then the state would stay in the physical. But of course there have been encroachments on both sides, okay? Well, why am I bringing it up that way? Because historically we always have been in a war for the hearts and minds of men, not just the material world. And the New Testament says that the evil one will and his minions will traffic in the souls of men. And as I pointed out before, souls is the union of the body and the spirit, so it's the control of both. Well, the reason why I bring this up is because I also said, and many of us have said, that if the power of the elites of the New World Order was ever truly threatened, that they would destroy everything, or at least attempt to, or threaten to, okay? Yeah, a few years ago, North Korea was rattling its sabers. There were some indications that it had gotten a satellite up into orbit that has a capability of an EMP attack on the United States. There have been a lot of movies and things, showing that. But I thought I'd present the strategic problem that we have here. With all that's going on with Donald Trump, he is the main problem for the New World Order. And it was kind of a dry run a few years ago. I don't know if they didn't foresee Donald Trump coming in. I don't think that was it. I think that occasionally they let the little tantrum child, North Korea, throw its little tantrum. And that's what was going on before. But now we're into a more serious situation. During the period of the Cold War, when the Soviet Union was in existence, it had its cannon fodder that it would send through the Fulda Gap in Germany in the event that it had decided to make an attack. Those first ground forces were like from Bulgaria, from Romania, those types of places. And while in the United States it was hyped up that these were superior, forces, the fact of the matter was they never were. That was all hype, so that the military-industrial complex could get more money. And that's not to say it wasn't a problem, because the Soviet Union's plan was to send these lesser-trained cannon fodder, lesser supplied, equipped cannon fodder through that gap first to get chopped up, use up the resources of the Allies on the other side, and then send in the good forces, the more highly trained, better equipped forces. It still wouldn't have worked very well. It would have ended up in a nuclear war, because Russia really has never been what the Western military-industrial complex claims it to be. But how do I know that? Because I was part of a NATO unit, a NATO team that went into some of these countries back many years ago to determine their military readiness if they were going to come into NATO. So those are my credentials. Anyway, why do I bring that up? Because at this point, Trump is succeeding in a lot of ways. Yeah, they really caused him some troubles in D.C., but you can see the determination on his face. I saw a picture of him. There was a man with 2 arms missing, and this was put up on Twitter, I believe. And Donald Trump, this is amazing, he knew that the man wouldn't feel him there, so he touched his face. Ladies and gentlemen, this guy's not an ordinary guy. Donald Trump's very special. And the New World Order knows that. He may not have all the finesse to do all these politics in Washington, which is why his people should help him, and they're really not the way they need to. But those stories I've talked about before, and I'm not going to get into the wiretapping and all that. This isn't part 4 of that series I was doing. There are so many things else going on I had to get up here on this subject. So what the New World Order is doing is they're firing at North Korea, which is in this, and I said years ago that would be one of the major flashpoints, and I think most people know that. So they're firing at North Korea. And remember, it was the Clintons that gave China our nuclear ballistic missile secrets in the 90s. And we'd be fools to think that the Chinese wouldn't use North Korea as the cannon fodder for them that the Soviet Union planned on using Bulgaria and Romania, etc. for during the Cold War. And that's what we're seeing here. So the New World Order is losing ground. It's being exposed. The pedophile rings which control so much of this are starting to be revealed. The information's starting to come out. What Obama has done, the treason that and I'm going to call it treason, subversion, sedition. He's not just doing politics, he's waging warfare. Whether it's through the Brits or through other surreptitious means, it doesn't matter. The fact that the CIA, all that, doesn't matter. And the sad part of this is that the New World Order and the military-industrial complex has worked itself into the position that no matter what happens, it benefits because it wants war. And here we go again. Because the people will not repent. The people will not back off of all this demonic crap that they do, especially in this country. We have a lot of good people, but a lot of us are asleep, and a lot of us are just, we really are possessed. We really are. If we're not, then we're just willingly giving ourselves over to evil. And I won't go into all the particulars there, but, in the scriptures it said, if you won't repent, if you won't come back to me, God talking, then I'll have to, allow the evil one to bring forth his swords and all of this. I'm going to have to. Because I can't protect those who won't at least try to do the right thing. What is stopping this from happening now, if it is stopped, is the fact that Donald Trump is there. But the evil side that wants, remember, go back and read Albert Pike. All of this was talked about over 150 years ago. All of this, everything you're seeing. That's really why I probably know a lot about it, is because I studied that. I studied the inside track of what the secret societies were planning as early as 1820, 1840, and then certainly by the time Albert Pike was going in 1850s, 1860s, 70s rather. Anyway, so the New World Order, China, we're starting to talk about taking some of this economic power from China, which is really the New World Order's baby. China is. That's where everything's been going. I've said this before, check all of the investments by people like Bush and Cheney and Rothschilds, etc., etc. It's all gone to China because that was going to be the New World Order's model for control. And they're doing it with the internet. We see the censorship and all that going on. That's all Chinese model, okay? So China is getting ready to make the move, and it wouldn't surprise me if they throw North Korea into this fray initially as cannon fodder. Remember I talked the other day about reconnaissance and force, feints, those things to test the abilities of the enemy? That's all that's about. Those first few cannon fodder to send through there. Not that North Korea can't do a lot of damage, they can, but the real power there is China. Okay, just like it wasn't Bulgaria and Romania, it was the Soviet Union at the time. And by the way, Russia is not the Soviet Union today. That's all Western Trotskyite neocon BS. Because I saw Ann Coulter the other day. What did she say? Why can't we make Russia our sister country? By all means. By all means. Thank you, Ann Coulter. So basically what I'm saying here, I'm probably repeating myself a lot because this is really serious. The New World Order is faltering and it will start a war. If not to just make sure that they stay in power and the military-industrial complex continues on, which is their way of controlling things. The United States, I saw Michael Savage call us the USSA, and that will be used to destroy the world, and that's true. But because Trump has taken a lot of this from them and is planning on taking more, thank God. Look what he's doing to the bureaucratic agencies, inventorying whether or not, inspecting them to see where they can make cuts, because so much of it is waste. Thank goodness, especially the EPA, the BLM, the Department of Interior, Department of Education, all of that. Great, fantastic. It's way overdue. And Trump is a blessing to this country, if not the world. We have to watch him. There are things, of course, that happen that worry us, but I'm not going to get into that today. North Korea is the issue. So, with everything being what it is, the New World Order is having China make the move first through North Korea. Okay? This could be bad. And I said it a few years ago, and I don't mean to blow whistles, be Chicken Little and scream the sky is falling, but this is serious, because what's in the mix is who controls the planet. It's not just who controls Europe or who controls Asia or who controls Africa. This is about controlling the entire planet, both physically and spiritually. It's happening. And like I said, how many videos ago I put up the quote from Albert Pike saying that they wanted to destroy Christianity? That's one of the motives? That is an actual motive of all this? Why? Because with all the faults that Christianity has, and I can tell you a lot, I've been schooled in this, I'm educated, and I can tell you, I think people realize when I talk about these things that I'm not a traditional Christian. But yet, even with all of its faults, Christianity still teaches about repentance, about being good to your neighbor, about all the things that make life worth living. I heard a guy say the other day, if you're not loving, you're not living. And that's really true. That's really, really true. All right, just wanted to tell you, have a heads up on this and realize that, like I said, and I'm repeating myself a lot because that's the way I was taught to teach, the New World Order is in a situation where it's willing to destroy everything rather than lose power. Hopefully, we'll have good people rally around Donald Trump. Well, there are some now. There are not nearly enough. They're not nearly enough. I'm so happy to see these vets come. Alex Jones had the vets come out with this program where they're doing the sign thing. I'm for Donald Trump, all that. And it really is our vets. And the warrior class in the military, if they will keep the Constitution and the concerns of the American people, not allow themselves to be used like they were in Katrina in New Orleans a few years ago after that big hurricane, to go in and actually impose themselves upon the people and take their liberties like their weapons. You can't do that again, military, National Guard, whoever. You can't do that. Even if you're ordered to. If you're ordered to, you turn on those who are ordering you to do it, because they're the enemy. They're the enemy. And yes, I support Donald Trump as a veteran 100%. 100%. Keep your eyes on the horizon and your ears on the ground. Get your supplies together. Keep preparing. Out here.